few women writers are being published in top literary magazines and the like. And the numbers are astounding, as I'm sure many of you have seen them, but if you haven't, I highly recommend that you do. And in response, Slice magazine went back and tallied their number of female writers. And in the last 2 years, I believe they've published 51 men and 52 women, which is something that even our top literary magazines are not doing. So I think we should applaud them. Okay, I'm reading from my piece, Dorian Journey. I'm going to be reading from the middle. So all we need to know is that Dorian is away at school, and she has a younger brother named Brandon. Before Thanksgiving, there was a surge of envelopes. He recognized her handwriting on the coffee table and saw his parents smile. They spilled coffee on the carpets and dropped newspapers by accident. Walking from room to room with a secret between them as they studied the grapes and the dining room table. All of this has to go. His mother shook her head and pulled chairs in their faces. He spotted many napkin rings made of silver on the counter, a new sofa that he was instructed not to sit on when coming from indoor play, and a tablecloth that was only brought out for birthdays and the birth of new babies. What's happening? He was told there would be a visitor this holiday season, someone special for Dorian, and that they were to make a good impression. The following Friday, Brandon was stuffed into a button-up shirt that itched his neck and wrist, prohibited from the backyard, and told to stop fidgeting. Brandon was the one who saw him first, coming down the driveway in a suit with all these different pieces. He had never seen anything like it before. Brown, with some type of green on the inside. He held Dorian's hand and eyed their front door for the first time, kissing Dorian lightly on the cheek as his hands brushed over the clatter of coats to receive them. He was narrow in the face and introduced himself with touches to his pocket watch, gold with a ticking so loud that Brandon counted the seconds from across the table. Hello there, old man. He knelt down. Hi, Brandon mumbled and looked to Dorian, who stood straighter than he remembered. Why does he talk funny? Brandon asked as he followed his mother into the kitchen. It's an accent, darling. He's from Alabama. Brandon ate most of the cookies on the table as Ronald spoke. The twangs in his words made Dorian smile as she cupped her grin in her hands. She began to shimmer when the word nuptials entered the room, and he described a house with a wraparound porch and red shutters. Their mother cleared the table with another smile and asked if anyone wanted more cake. Ronald spoke about other countries he had traveled, described long, luxurious ships, and his mother's predilection for bone marrow in Paris. The time he wandered too close to the Mediterranean Sea and was nearly swept out to Sicily. Brandon watched Ronald's hands move across the table and thought of his sister. Before the previous year, Dorian had never been outside the state. She dreamed of the lakes beyond the neighboring towns and the forests that she had been warned of as a child. Stretches of green and mountains that you could never walk to. You needed a car to get there. And yet Ronald spoke of places even farther, foods even more exotic, whole cities where no matter how hard you looked, there was not a shred of English. He promised her parents that they would visit these places together and bring back souvenirs for the home, carpets and vases, teas and silks. Brandon was instructed to shake the young man's hand and say, "Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too, old man." Ronald smiled at him again. Dorian knelt down to hug him and said she would see him again in the summer. "Where is she going now?" Brandon asked after they had left. He was collecting placemats from the table. "Is she going back to school?" "No." His mother smiled again and pulled at her gangster. She said they were going to Alabama to visit his family, just like they had done here. Brandon paused and thought about a room full of people who all spoke like Ronald. The wall pictures and photographs showed swinging back and forth with the force of such a peculiar vernacular. His parents held hands and spoke about Dorian as if she were now much older, leaving the family, they said, and perhaps starting one of her own. "You might be an uncle again," they told Brandon. Someday soon." He pondered her face in the mud castles he built and thought of her lightly as he alarmed his tiny toy soldiers by the back door, thinking of her in that big house with brand new furniture and expensive curtains, But there was a phone call very late at night, so loud and persistent that he stirred with the voices in the kitchen. He heard the car in the driveway start up suddenly, and then everything went silent. In the morning, he was told to walk quietly down the hall and be considerate when opening and shutting the front door. Why? She was home again, having called from the train station with indistinguishable thoughts. The only words they could make out were, "Please, come get me." She slept for days, it seemed, never required to come sit at the table for meals and unable to take phone calls. The only times he saw her were on her vacant shuffles to the bathroom, her face gaunt as she acknowledged him with a downward glance. "Sorry, Brandon," she said, stepping over his toys again. Brandon didn't say Ronald's name at dinner, but remembered his voice and dessert food. Playing with the icing, he finally asked his parents if they were still going to do that big house with the red shutters, and if Dorian was still going to bring them presents from abroad. They looked at each other and spoke about the need to take out the flower bed by the back bedroom window. Weeds had taken it over, they said, and it was no longer beautiful. Light and voiceless, she would stay through the snow and the holidays, and no one mentioned anything about a spring semester when February came. Brandon often watched her leave for work in the morning, just a bit earlier than when he would leave for school. Off to make Sundays in banana splits all day at the soda fountain, she said, donning a white nurse-like uniform and lacing up white shoes in the living room. He thought she looked awfully tired every morning when she came home. Moving her coat was a laborious task. When flowers and trees began to thaw, Brandon wasn't sure what to tell the other kids at school. Without the disguise of hats and mittens, it was obvious that drifting figure by the market was Dorian Shelley. Covering her face with newspapers and sacks of fruit, she disappeared from the aisles before anyone could begin a conversation. "I thought your sister was away at school," a boy across the playground shouted over the front of the baseball into guard. "She was." Brandon heaved the ball back. "She's on vacation now." Everyone knows vacations are only at Christmas and in the summer. The boy held the ball back and wound his wrist. "Why does she get extra?" "I heard your sister was going to get married," piped up a tough girl on the outskirts, a long scratch of dirt on her cheek. "Oh yeah?" Brandon chucked the ball back to the boy. "Who'd you hear that from?" "My mom. Your mom told my mom in the grocery line at Thanksgiving. But now my mom says that that's not going to happen because she wasn't good enough for the other family." Brandon paused and clutched the ball in his fingers. "Yeah, and where did she hear that lie?" "Around," said the girl. "It's true, isn't it?" Brandon shrugged and received the hard ball right at his chest. He plummeted backward and got a visit to the nurse instead of a science lesson. Dorian became an odd decoration during big family dinners. She dutifully assisted in the arrangement of biscuits and set hot chunks of meat upon the table as asked. Uncles and aunts told her not to bother, though, and whispered that she had been through enough. They hugged her frail form in the kitchen and told her to come visit. She nodded and said a few words, just a few decibels louder than the sound of the mice her mother was certain she heard skirting the laundry room floor. After about a month, suitcases were taken down from the hall closet. "Who is leaving?" He studied them, barefoot, before breakfast. "Dorian," his mother announced. "Dorian is going on a trip." "Where?" "Over the ocean, very far. She's going to Germany." Squirreling money and tips away for such an occasion, getting out of the town for a while, but nevertheless leaving one snowstorm for another. "But who will you stay with? What will you do?" Their mother pleaded with her at the door. "Why Germany?" Dorian paused and held her suitcases tightly. She said there was no tea or silks in Germany. She could speak a little English if she wanted to, and most important of all, he's never been there, Mother. Dorian didn't hug Brandon goodbye, but glanced at him only as she climbed the driveway. Then there was a letter. He recognized her handwriting and brought it down the driveway, victorious. Waving it about, he exclaimed, "I found Dorian. I found Dorian." His parents quickly plucked the letter from him and read the words together under the kitchen lamp. "What does it say?" He hopped up to try and read with them. His mother brought her hand to her mouth and looked at his father, who seemed to be hardening in front of the refrigerator. "I will write to her about this." He folded the letter in half. "Does she say where she is? What city? I want to look it up." He heard the click of his mother's shoes all the way back down into the bedroom, and then the slam of the door. His father set right to work in the office, leaving his door ajar. Brandon watched him mulling over certain words before crossing them out. He selected different as he reread certain lines to himself, and then started new letters on new sheets of paper. Dorian wrote back a few more times that year. Her letters concealed as they got swept up in the monthly bills and his mother's women's magazine. Deep sighs and disgruntlement seeping out from his father's office as new letters were drafted in response. Irresponsible was the word they used a lot as Brandon asked to see the letters. I want to know where she is, he often said. One day after school, Brandon rummaged through his father's entire office, pulling out letters to his grandparents and cousins and peering between books and pictures. He expected a sermon when his father returned from work and realized that his things had been gone through. He didn't say anything though, and just watched Brandon devour his dinner before dismissing him from the table. When fall came and school started again, his parents called him into the living room. From opposite sides of the sofa that had been purchased when Dorian came home, they explained that he didn't have an older sister anymore. There will be your older sister, of course, married now with 2 babies, and that was fine. They both nodded. But Dorian is not a part of this family anymore. They said that she was never born and had never existed in this house. That if people asked after her, he was to say that they must be mistaken, that he didn't know whom they were talking about, that he was one of only 2 children in his family. But he studied them both. Why? They sighed and said that Dorian had done something unforgivable, that she had offended them. What does that word mean? He kicked the heels of his shoes together and they explained again. It means, his mother took the reins, that people don't love you anymore. Brandon watched the photos of her disappear from the mantel, removed from picture frames and placed methodically into shoeboxes. When his father disappeared with the box full of Dorian's things bound for the trash, Brandon stole one of the shoeboxes and hid it under his bed. As time passed, he revisited the pictures of her, reaching new ages and arriving upon different birthdays with her in mind. He pulled out the photos to see what she looked like on her 12th birthday, what she had looked like when she had been 13. He sometimes compared their faces in the mirror, holding the photo in his face up to the reflection to spot similarities in the eyes and nose. He never said her name to anyone, and when he arrived at high school, his freshman English teacher asked him if he was of any relation to Miss Dorian Shelley. No, ma'am, he shook his head. I am not. Too bad, the old woman grumbled. Brilliant girl she was. Thank you.